What's up, you two? How's everyone doing today? It's your boy Reg in the building, coming at you. Got my homeboy Try with me,
What up?
and today we are going to talk about top 20 hip hop albums from 1998. Love doing these little lists and shit like that too. So you know what I'm saying? Um, Picking top 20, a
Shit.
lot of variety, East Coast, West Coast, South, Midwest, a lot
Facts.
of shit popping off. All right, so without further ado, let's start this shit. My number 20, I gotta go with Capadonna with the Pillage album. A must have in your collection for all my woo heads and stuff like that. This is the album where definitely had like that basement gritty kind of sound and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of classic songs came out from this track. Like everything is everything. That's like my favorite track. Milk the Cow, I love that one. You know what I'm saying? I love dart throwing and shit too. Very dope album in my personal opinion. Must have in your collection from my woo heads. Yo,
We're doing honorable mentions later, right?
yeah, we're doing honorable mentions later.
Okay. Let me see. Let me see. So number 20 for me. Yeah, that's gonna. Damn, what's gonna be number 20 for me? It was hard. It was a hard decision though. I was like, I didn't know. You know how much I like Def Squad El Nino, but I said I forgot about this album that was from '98 also. So I'm going with for number 20. It's gonna be Lord Tariq and Peter Guns, the Make It Rain album.
Mm.
Definitely enjoy this album. I think it's underrated. It's a shame that we didn't get more from them. You know, we only got this one album and the big hit single, Deja Vu, Uptown Baby, and We Will Ball. That was the second single. But I think when we talked about the Amplified album and how I mean I feel like how Tip made that whole album around the success of Robin thing. I think this is what Lil Tariq and Peter Guns did. They made this album around the success of Deja Vu, and it felt like a rushed album. But there's some joints on here, like they have the Cross Bronx Expressway with Fat Joe and Big Pun. That was dope. Um, the Massive Heat joint with Sticky Fingers and Corrupt. That was a banger. Worldwide, starting something where they that was produced by Teddy Riley and Chauncey Black is on the chorus and Teddy Riley actually sampled "Want to Be Starting Something" from Michael Jackson. But it's some bangers. But if the album felt rushed, it felt like they just put this album like Columbia just rushed this album out there to capitalize on the success of Deja Vu, and it didn't sell, and they like forever known as this one hit wonder, you know, mashup group or whatever. But I think it's definitely a dope album, and like again, like I don't hear nobody mention it or discuss it. So one day I want to discuss this album.
Yeah, I heard that album one time a while back ago, and I
Mm,
definitely agree with you. It's one of those hip hop albums where the label tries so hard to make another hit off that one
right,
single. And
right.
quite honestly, it was a banging album.
It
It's not like
was.
it was a bad album. It was a banging album, especially for that 98.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Steely Dan, but they kind of fucked up their careers and stuff.
Facts. Yeah, cause that's another thing. Cause they didn't get no residual. They didn't.
Nope.
All the residuals went to Steely Dan, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they didn't get paid for that. Now you got Peter Guns on. That's why you got Peter Guns on Love and Hip Hop for so long and shit.
because Steely Dan, I think they also screwed another hip hop group too. I want to say they did
Oh
De La
wow,
Soul, if I'm not
wow.
mistaken.
Man, you can't sample from them. That's all. You know.
Right. And honestly, like people, whenever people want to sample Steely Dan, they always go for the Asia album.
Right. I mean that was a classic album. I love that
Yeah,
album,
yeah.
but you
I
know,
love the album.
hey, if it comes to the point where you're sampling from an artist and they're recouping all the residuals and all that, then you can't sample from them. You know.
Right. Or just make your own shit.
Right.
All right. So my number 19 is gonna be a surprise.
Okay.
It's pretty much the last great album from Death Row Records.
Mm-hmm.
Retaliation, Revenge, and Get Back from Daz.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't hear a lot of people talk about this album because
yeah.
it came out 2 years after Pac died, Suge
Right.
went to jail, Snoop dropped that Dogfather album, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So Death Row
Right.
was kind of like in shambles and whatnot.
Facts.
And yeah, I think the story with this album was the fact that Daz was pretty much running Death Row Records and stuff too
Mm-hmm.
around this time and shit. And he didn't really like the management. He was trying to leave and stuff like that. So
Right.
he was trying to finish up this album and whatnot too. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, this is a very dope album, in my
Mm-hmm.
personal opinion.
Definitely.
I mean, yes, I mean, is it as good as Chronic, Dog Food, Doggy Style? Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a failure by any chance. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I love songs like In California with the legendary Val Young, who got since his P Funk one, she got her start in P Funk too. Not many people
Right.
know that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like Riding High with Dub C. I like OG with Snoop and Nate Dogg. You know what I'm saying? It's going down with Crut and Prince Ital. I mean, this whole fucking album, it definitely had that late '90s West Coast kind of music. I love it's like that post '96, like Exhibits, 40 Days, 40 Nights. This record it definitely had that. What? How can I put this? Post All Eyes on Me, pre 2001. That's the way I could.
Right.
I like that West Coast era as much.
Definitely a banger. Like to me, that's his best album.
Same.
You know. Number 19 for me is I love this album. I said when Snoop Dogg left Death Row, he made his best stuff on No Limit. Love this album. The game is to be sold, not told. Love the album cover with the pen and pixel and the pit bulls on, and he's got the mansion in the back and all that. And love the blue case. Phenomenal production from Beats by the Pound and KLC was on here and great album. Gin and Juice 2. I Can't Take the Heat. You know, what's the other, my other joint? Game of Life. That was a banger. Definitely enjoyed that one. Still a G thing. First single. I don't know. I don't know how people feel. I think people is mixed feelings with this album, but I think it was solid, man. Like his three on No Limit were excellent to me. Top Dog and Last Meal is a classic and definitely one of my favorites. And I'm not even a No Limit fan, but I love the No Limit shit from Snoop on here, on that label at that time, and he was in the zone. After leaving Death Row, and he went off on his own and did his thing, and same like Warren G. Warren G was like, I don't need Death Row. I'm gonna go to Def Jam and do my thing, and he did his thing, and it was like life after Shug, and you know that's what he did, and I think he proved it, starting with this album, and then the other two to come on No Limit, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah. You already know how I feel about that album. Shit.
Yes.
Yeah, man. But I do admit, mine is that album. His No Limit discography doesn't get shit at all.
hmm And why is that? Why like what they don't acknowledge Snoop as a real No Limit member?
Personally, if you ask me, and this is just my personal opinion,
hmm
when No Limit was really breaking out, not a lot of people was feeling that sound like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they felt like comparison to like the Dungeon Family, and even like the Rap a Lot. People thought that there was kind of like low quality and shit like that too.
Mm,
And because the beat, they used to drop shit in like a fast, rapid production and stuff like that
right.
compared to like other artists. And I think people just got kind of tired of it after a while. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? But honestly, I wasn't. I like No Limit. I love No Limit. But when I was growing up, it was certain No Limit acts that I like better than others. If that makes
right.
sense. Like
I mean,
I
I
hate to say, I was not.
mm.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying like I've never been a fan of No Limit like that. Like I respect Master P for with the hustle he did and selling tapes out of the back of his trunk and then becoming a mogul and he had a huge roster. He, like so many put his family on. He put other artists on. Signed Mystical and all that, and signed Snoop Dogg and all that stuff. But I never was like a true No Limit fan like that. You know what I'm saying? But they blew up. They were huge in the '90s, and I love the Snoop Dogg stuff on No Limit. That's about it. And I like C Murder, but I wasn't like a fan of like Silk the Shocker and the rest of them cats.
See, and that's the thing though, because I fuck with Silk the Shocker.
Mm,
C Murder, I haven't really heard a lot of solo C Murder stuff. I mostly liked him during the True era. Same with Silk the Soccer.
mm,
Mystical probably had my favorite discography off No Limit, if you ask me.
right.
Mia X was cool. Cause in No Limit, I personally like the years. I mostly like the priority years, like
Mm,
the from '94 to '98. Those are pretty much my
right.
favorite years.
Right.
And I say '94 because I include Masterpiece, the Ghetto's Trying to Kill Me album,
Yeah.
the Ice Cream Man, 99 Ways to Die, which I love Ghetto D, but I will pick those three albums over Ghetto D any day. Just
Right.
being real.
Yeah.
Especially 99 Ways to Die. That shit does not get its just due. But yeah, that's a dope pick and shit. Um, album number 18. I'm gonna stay on the West Coast. I love DJ Quick's Rhythmalism.
All right.
Yeah, we
Oh
recently
shit.
talked
That's
about.
my pick also.
That's your next pick.
Yeah, number 18. That's
Wow.
my pick.
Okay. Cool.
Oh shit.
And that was a last minute pick on some real shit.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
man. So yeah, this one came during like a transitional part of DJ Quick's career because of the fact that this was after 3 years after Safe and Sound, after the whole beef with MC8, which was dying down around this time, and he was going through like a lot of label issues.
Right.
Trying to get his royalties back because at one point, he was on death row,
Mm-hmm.
well, unofficially on death row records and shit. And so he tried to like incorporate like a lot more R&B into his music, which started honestly with the 2020 song "Let's Get Down," and then he did his whole album right here and shit like that. Honestly, man, this might be my fourth favorite album from him.
Right.
And DJ Quick's discography was very consistent, in my opinion. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. That was a good one that we did.
hmm
Most of his albums were like banging.
yeah, very banging and stuff like that.
Mm,
I love songs like "Use a Gangster," which had a very dope video as well too. Um, Elder Bars, man, on this album, like Hand in Hand. I love that one.
mm,
I loved Medley for V, the Pussy Medley and shit. And it's crazy because that same year he also dropped Sugar Free's album. I think it's the Street
yeah,
Gospel album.
that was dope too. Yeah.
Yeah, 98 was a good year for Quick and shit like that. If I had to
For
pick,
sure.
honestly, I would probably pick the Sugar Free album. But this
Mm,
one right here, for all my Quick fans, you'll definitely love this album and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's not as gangster as maybe like the first three albums and stuff too, but still
right.
very. It shows his artistry.
Yeah, I love it, man. That was one of my favorites. And one of the very first Quick albums I heard, and it's a 5 mic classic to me. The production, the songs, the features. You got Elder Barge in a couple songs, and You know, I always felt like L should have did an album with him, and I still feel like that because L still got it. I was like, I would love to hear El DeBarge and album produced by Quick. Um, I used to know her with AMG. I was dope. Down, down, down. The what is it? Get Together Again. Like the whole album was a Find My classic. Definitely one of my favorite Quick albums.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about that.
Yeah.
All right, since that's both on number 18, I'll just go to number 17. Um, I don't think this might be a number 17, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Method Man to Cal 2000.
That's higher on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. See, this was a hard list because this could have been in my maybe top 14, but
Mm-hmm.
my top 10 might surprise you, but you know what I'm
Uh-oh.
saying? Yeah.
That's
Got a
always
few,
bad when you say that. It might surprise
got a
you.
few controversial picks on this one, but
Oh my lord.
yeah, man. But to Cal 2000,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably his most lyrical album,
Yeah, I
in
agree.
my personal opinion. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not to say that he was not lyrical with Takal. I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like, with Takal, he mostly just did that album for the people like in his environment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas Takal 2000, he tried to like incorporate like a lot more concept, like the apocalypse thing,
Mm-hmm.
the millennium, and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And it's good. It's because a lot of motherfuckers was trying to do that whole shit, like the Busta Rhymes, for instance,
Right.
and stuff like that too. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good gimmick. It's a good thing. It's
Yeah,
a good
it
gimmick
was
and
good.
shit like that too.
It was
And
good.
not all gimmicks are bad. You know what I'm saying? As long as it's
Right.
used right.
Right.
But yeah, this whole album is so fucking ill. And it's crazy because a lot of people. The only thing I didn't like was the skits. The skits was kind of weak on
Yeah.
this album.
Too many. That's
And
the only bad thing I had about that. It was
same.
just too many skits.
Come
Yeah.
on, Chris. We played too much Chris Rock. Come on now.
Right. You had Janet
And that
Jackson
was a
on
time when
the
Chris
skits.
Rock was just appearing on hip hop albums just for the fuck of it.
Right.
That was a weird era for Chris Rock, but okay. But other than that, this has some of his best songs. Retro Godfather, love that.
Mm-hmm.
Spazzola, come on.
That was dope.
Sweet Love, oh my
That's my
god.
favorites right there. Those two, Spazzola and Sweet Love, back to back. Crazy.
And don't forget the title track,
Mm-hmm.
As I Left
That
the
was dope.
Value. Like
Now
that's
see with that song when that first came out, I remember when he was on TRL and he wrote premiered that video. I didn't like it because I was like, this sound like some EDM bullshit. I'm like, what are you doing, Meth? It sound like some EDM, like
yeah,
futuristic shit. I didn't like it at first, and then it grew on me, like over time.
yeah. I remember when I first heard it too.
Yeah,
I was actually watching like a top hip hop albums and stuff, top hip hop songs, and I got into that song and stuff like that. And I was just so used to, I came to bring the pain, that Method Man and shit like the METHOD. But I came to
right.
appreciate how he stepped up his game lyrically
Yeah.
and stuff like that too. Cause I love certain album like I love Wu members like Jizza
Mhm.
and ODB, but Jizza's Beneath the Surface and stuff like that.
That was dope. Yeah.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like Beneath the Surface,
No, I didn't.
and you
I
still
felt
you
like the
still had
beat.
RZA producing for him on that album too.
Yeah, but see, the beat was like Jizza lyrically, he did his thing. It was the
Mhm.
production I had a huge issue with. I felt
So
like
you
some of
like
the beats was
none of
kind
the
of
songs.
boring.
You didn't like Publicity or Breaker.
Breaker, I could vibe on that once in a minute.
Mhm.
Maybe I might have to re-listen to it. When I first heard it, I got it in my collection too.
Right. I
But
never bought
nigga,
that one.
please, ODB's nigga, please. Oh
Oh
God,
man, that was bad. That
that
was a
was a
bad
bad.
one. Yeah.
Who else? Raekwon's Immobility
See, and I like that one. I like that one.
is decent.
But
Now it's decent. When I
that
first heard it, it's not.
and it's like now when you look back at like Ghostface's discography, he didn't even use RZA for all his albums, and he still came up with solid albums. Like Raekwon was like one of the first ones to say, "I'm not using RZA. I'm gonna use other unknown producers." I thought it was a banger, but a lot of people he don't even like the album.
Because my issue with that album mostly was a lot of songs he definitely tried to prove to. Because I heard like around that time he
Mhm.
had a falling out with RZA. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
true.
I didn't.
and he had his
You told me that. I remember you telling me that.
yeah, and he had his like his crew, the American Cream Team, which was
Yeah.
like his Bravehearts and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, man. But now it had don't get me wrong, because Immobile Larry, it had some dope joints like Sneakers,
Right.
Walking New York. I mean, but then it was just like some of those beats I could have seen Capone Noriega on. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not
Definitely.
saying that as a
Definitely.
diss to Capone Noriega. I fuck with Capone Noriega, but
Right.
Raekwon at that time he needed like RZA, and even if it's not RZA, the Fourth Disciple or some shit. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
I agree.
But yeah, but back to Cal 2000, like this whole fucking album is probably his last great album. Keyword great and
Yeah.
stuff like that too, because
For sure.
prequel sucked
I didn't
after you
like that.
listen to 421 and shit. So
That had some joints, but it's not a great album compared to the first two. You
yeah,
know. Yep. So my number 17 is Onyx. Shut 'em down. One of my favorite Onyx albums, and I think this was like their last album on Def Jam, and at least Def Jam promoted it. Like they went on the Survival of the Fittest tour for that album, and that was a great tour. And they had their joint Shut 'em down with DMX. Rest in peace. That was a banger. Still love that track. That might be my favorite Onyx track ever. Um, the Broke Willies joint. What else they had? Face Down, the Veronica song where they like talking about like they hooked up with, I think they hooked up with Veronica, and it was like she set them up or something like that.
yeah,
That was a great storytelling track, and we did the review for that album. That was a great review. Um, just phenomenal production. DJ Scratch, he was on this album. You had Self. Onyx, they produced a lot of the joints on here, and I loved it, man. I definitely think it's a 5 mic classic and one of my favorites from '98.
definitely. The way how they got kicked out of Def Jam is so trifling, but
Yeah,
that's Leo Cohen for you.
man.
Um, I'm gonna stay on the Wu Tang for a little bit with the Wu Tang Killer Bees compilation.
Mm, that's dope.
Yeah, the Swarm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Like I said before, I like the second wave of Wu Tang. The affiliate albums
Hmm.
really held it down with the affiliate albums and stuff like that.
Right.
In '98, you also had a pillage at that time. A lot of Dark Men, Heist of the
Yes.
Century, which again that might be an honorable mention and shit too.
Definitely.
Um, I want to say Wu Syndicate came out that year too.
Yep.
But yeah, this one very dope one. You have songs like Legacy with Royal Fam, Sons of Men with Concrete Jungle. Love that joint. Cobra Clutch with Ghostface. I mean, not
Uh-huh.
everything on here was perfect. I mean, I didn't care for the Bobby Digital and Justice for All joint
Hmm.
and shit like that. Which, spoiler alert, Bobby Digital's not on my list. Sorry, sorry, not sorry, but
Oh man.
yeah, just saying.
All right. Number 16 is Fat Joe Don Cartagena. A classic album, his last great album in my opinion. And we had production from LES and Marley Marl and Premier, Buck Wild, Ski, Baby Paul from the Beatminers, and phenomenal album. Pun was all over this album. I know you had said in the past that there's a rumor that Pun had wrote for him on this album.
Oh, that's not a rumor. That's a fact.
Oh, it's a fact. Okay. So
Huh?
Pun, yeah, like, yeah, you could tell like Joe was in his bag lyrically on this album, and I think it's because of Pun. And he had joints like Triplets and the John Blaze joint with Nas and Raekwon, Jadakiss. That was a great joint. That gangster shit produced by Premier. Misery Needs Company. That was the first joint I actually heard before the album came out with Noriega on that joint. A great album. 5 mic classic. He don't make albums like this no more. Like this is before the Cool and Dre era, and him hooking up and trying to do what the South was doing in the 2000s. But his first three to me are his classics in his discography. So
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about that.
yeah.
All right. My number 15, Busta Rhymes ELE 1. Must have in your
Yes.
collection. Busta's best album, in my opinion.
Hmm.
I mean, this whole track list could be a versus battle by itself, but just saying. He got certain tracks like "Give Me Some More," was probably my favorite Busta Rhymes song. Period.
Yeah.
It's They Wildin' with Us, Getting Rowdy with Us with Mystical. I love that joint. What the fuck you want? Everybody Rise. This whole fucking album got bangers and shit like that. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, definitely like just like TKL 2000, they were on that apocalypse theme and shit like that. Very very dope album.
Definitely. All right, my number 15 is Method Man, Decal 2002 Judgment Day. You mentioned that before, and phenomenal album. Production was great, and he just didn't use the RZA. He had Eric Sermon producing on here. He had Havoc. I think Inspector Deck did some joints. Definitely a great album. Dangerous Grounds is one of my favorite tracks. He should have had a video for that. Killing Fields was dope. Spazzola, Sweet Love, Retro Godfather, Play for Keeps. That was a banger with I think Mobb Deep was on that one. And yeah, from Five Mic Classic to the only part I don't like the skits. I mean, and the thing is he had big names on the skits. He had Janet Jackson was on this album. He had Donald Trump was on it. I know you probably regret that now. Was on this. I was on the skit. A skit thing was like the last skit with Donald Trump, and I'm like, yo, you had so many big name people on this album. You really didn't need the skits. They could have just been thrown on like the beginning of a track or something. But the skits I didn't care for. But the album itself, the songs were great, and his first two to me are his best shit ever. Like anything after that, I ain't checking for from Method Man. And I didn't even hear the Meth Lab 3. I heard people say that was dope, but I don't even know if I'm gonna check that out.
I heard some cuts on that. That was alright.
It
It
was
was
good.
dope. I
Oh
gotta hear
well.
the whole thing though.
Okay.
All right. My number 14, Doc's the Name 2000.
Yes.
Redman's album and stuff like that. Pretty dope album and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Um, Again, it definitely had a more commercial tone compared to like the first three. Well, not stuff because Muddy Water did have like a slightly commercial feel to it too, but
Hmm.
this one was definitely a dope one and shit like that. So way better than Ho and El Nino and shit.
Right.
Love songs like Down South Funk with Eric Sermon and Keith Murray. Um, well, All Right Chill was pretty good. I liked Let the Monkey Out and shit too. Dogs was dope as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this one right here was a pretty dope record. Very well sequenced as well too. It is most successful album to date.
Facts. Definitely enjoyed that. That's on my list too. That's gonna be higher for me. 'Cause that's like one of my favorite Redman albums. You know, number where we at? Number 14 for me is AZ Pieces of a Man. I actually had this album and it ended up cracking in the case, so I never replaced it. I gotta definitely get that back again one day. But this was a great sophomore album. Definitely enjoyed this album. And you had the teaser single "Hey AZ" with I believe Coco was on the chorus for that, and they never put it on the album for whatever reason. You had "How You Living" with Nas. That was one of my favorites. "Trading Places" with that little Caribbean steel pan melody. That was one of my favorites. Sosa was dope. The joint that RZA did, "Whatever Happened," the birth, that was a banger. Just to hear like RZA on the AZ album and yeah, this is a album that people sleep on from AZ, and I think the production from the Track Masters and LES and had Tony Dofat did a track. Nasheem Merrick did a track. RZA, like I mentioned, phenomenal album.
Yeah, very phenomenal album indeed. All right. My number 13 is MOP with the first Family for Life album. Love this fucking joint
Yes.
right here. This came out, right after Firing Squad and whatnot. It definitely has some joints such as Four Alarm Blaze with Teflon and Jay Z. Love that joint.
Mm-hmm.
Love the title track. I mean, not the title track. Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Mm-hmm.
Downtown Swinging in '98 was dope. Breaking the Rules. Actually had Primo rhyming on that one and shit.
Right.
Uh, yeah, man, very very dope album and shit like that. This definitely screams 1998 in the underground.
Oh yeah. Yep. Number 13 for me is Pete Rock, Soul Survivor. Love that Pete Rock album, and this is like Pete, after the split with him and CL and going solo, and he didn't know if he could do it. And I think he gave us a masterpiece of an album with production, and he's rhyming on joints with, a lot of different artists. True Master, a classic record, first single with Deck and Corrupt. He killed that joint, and you know the Half Man Half Amazing with Method Man, that was a banger. You had Soul number one Soul Brother. That's like one of my favorites on this album. I love the drum patterns on that. Um, what else? Mind Blowing. That was a dope one. Strange Fruit. One of my favorites with Tragedy, Gaddafi, and Sticky Fingers, Capadonna on that joint. Take Your Time with Loose Ends. Another single. Five Mic Classic. That this I definitely need to get. I don't know why I never bought this album, but I definitely need to get this album because that was a masterpiece. And P Rock is my favorite producer all time. So
Right. All right. My next choice, I'm gonna go Lyricist Lounge Volume One. Very, very, very dope compilation that came out during the Ruckus era. A
mhm,
nice change of pace, especially from what was happening with the fucking commercial hip hop at that time too, the whole shiny suit era.
right,
It's a double disc album. It pretty much the first disc has De La Soul hosting like his Lyricist Lounge and stuff like that at the Tramps, and then the second disc had Kool Keith and Sir Mighty Coast that they just did like the version of the Shea Stadium and stuff like that. I mean, this whole fucking album, I love the whole fucking concept of this whole fucking album. Lyricist Lounge definitely reminds me of like those old poetry slam kind of ordeals and stuff like that. Um, certain songs like Body Rock with Most Def, Q-Tip and Tash was dope. I liked Action Guarantee with OC and Ross Cass. Fucking Be Okay with Bahama D and Rod Digger. Like this whole fucking album is very, very, very ill. CIA with Zach De La Roca, Karis when the Last Emperor was pretty ill too. So definitely need my hands on this album. Gosh.
Okay.
Yo,
Yo, it took me
you said
forever to come back
Your
on. I'm like,
Wi-Fi
what's up?
good?
Yeah,
You said
but
what?
I was trying to get in. I was like, it took me forever to come on. I'm like, what's wrong with StreamYard? Like, it takes longer now to get on.
Mm,
I don't know,
no,
man.
no. Hold that thought. Let me get something in the
Yes.
bathroom right quick.
All right.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
All right. I'll find some way to edit this shit out and stuff like that.
Right.
But we are number 11 right now, right?
12.
Okay, number 12. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I already said my number 12. Lyricist Lounge Volume One.
All right. Number 12 for me was Noriega solo album, classic album, and I love the fact that Nori held it down for both him and Capone when Capone was incarcerated, and then he after the war report, he got his accolades for that, and once they came out with that album, he went off solo and did this album, and I think it was a 5 mic classic again, and joints like Super Thug produced by the Neptunes. I was like the Neptunes breakout sound track that song for them as a production duo, and you had Esta Loca, and the what's the other joint, Band from TV was one of my favorites, and Mathematics, and Body in the Trunk with Nas. They should have had a video for that. That was a dope storytelling track, and just phenomenal production. Easy LP and the track masters, and like I said, the Neptunes did some joints, Swiss Beats, and it was a phenomenal album. 5 mic classic. Still his best album to me as a solo artist.
Yes. All right. My number 11 is DMX's Flesh in My Flesh, Blood in My Blood.
Oh shit, that's mine too.
You lying.
Yes, I have the list right here. That's my number 11. That's my
Oh,
number
that's what's up.
11.
All
Yep.
right. Well,
Wow.
yeah, man. This album right here is a fucking banger.
Mhm.
Is it as good as It's Dark and Hell is Hot? Not quite, but that does
You don't
not
think it
mean.
is?
I mean,
You know, like that.
it's good, but I feel like Dark and Hell is Hard. I feel like that's an album and you make once in a lifetime. This album was good. This is
Mhm.
my second favorite DMX album and shit like that too.
Right.
But Dark and Hell is Hot to me, that was just the banging album and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this one, it has some joints like Slippin'. I love that joint.
Hmm.
Blackout, Heat, Coming From with Mary J. Blige. Very underrated joint right there.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Definitely a very, very, very solid joint in my opinion.
Yes. Well, that's my number 11. DMX. I got this for Christmas that year, '98, and um, I love it. You know, was the coming from and Mary J. Blige, and um, we don't give a fuck with that was Styles P on that, Jada. Bring your whole crew, slipping from one of his classic records, The Omen, the Damien sequel with Marilyn Manson, Blackout joint, the posse cut with Jay Z and the Locks, and I loved it, man. I think this was a 5 mic classic, and I think X's discography was flawless. You know, I love, and then there was X, and the Great Depression, Grand Finale was Grand Champ was dope, and love it, man. 5 mic classic. Rest in peace, DMX.
Yeah, rest in peace indeed. All right, my number 10 is Killer Priest Heavy Mental. Um, Another Wu affiliate album that came out in '98. This is probably his best album in my opinion and shit like that. He definitely went in, on that. Definitely went in on this album and stuff like that too, because he's been appearing on Wu shit, like Jizz's Bible
Mm-hmm.
song from Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth. Love that track.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? When it comes to this album, I love songs like Fake MC's, One Step. You know, he actually has his own version of Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, which was pretty hot.
Mm-hmm.
High Explosives was pretty good too. So yeah, this album right here is a fucking bang. It's a classic album in my opinion.
Number 10, I got the Beastie Boys. Hello Nasty. Definitely a banging album. Like when this album came out, I thought it was okay. And I took a 7 year break. Like from I stopped buying albums for a minute. And like in 2010 was like the last time I bought out. It was a Teflon Don, and then I took like a 7 year hiatus. Came back, and I just had that bug again. I'm like, you know what? I never got Hello Nasty. Let me get it. But this was one of the first albums, and Ice Cube the Predator that when I started buying albums again in 2016, and this is a great album. Definitely, I appreciate this album now than I did in '98, and the joints, 3 MCs and one DJ. That was a great record. Body moving, intergalactic. I love that video where they're like out in Tokyo at the subway station and they all dressed up like train workers or whatever. Hazmat. They had like the hazmat suits on and flowing pros, remote control. One of my favorites. That just a phenomenal rap album. A b boy. It has b boy nostalgia with this album, and I mean every album was like that with the Beastie Boys anyway. Just like the way that they flowed and the production style, the DJing. It was just great. Just a phenomenal album. One of their best. I don't hear this is an album that it did great, and I don't hear a lot of people mention it. It's Licensed to Ill. It's Paul's Boutique, Ill Communication. They totally skip over this one for whatever reason. I don't know why, but this is definitely one of their best ones to me.
Yeah, definitely indeed.
Re- Rest in peace, MCA.
Yeah, my number 9 is Goody Mob Still Standing. I love this fucking album.
Oh,
A lot more different than Soul Food, in my personal opinion. They definitely went deeper with some of the content on this album as well too.
right.
You know, you have songs like Black Ice with Outkast. I love Greeny
Fire.
Green with Witch Doctor. See When I See You. I mean, you had DJ Muggs on this album as well. You know, with
Mm-hmm.
Inshallah, excuse me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This one album and Babyface actually is Babyface LRE actually executive produced this one. You
Right.
know, just like because you know Soul Food, it was just produced by Organized Noise and stuff like that too. But I guess Babyface and LRE, you know, they hooked him with some more money and
Mm-hmm.
shit too. You know what I'm saying? Gave him an advance, I guess. So
Right.
to me, the last great album because anything after this album, I didn't really care too much for.
Same. Number number uh Number 9, I got Busta Rhymes ELE, classic album. I love this album cover with, you know, the he was ahead of his time. This was like watching 9/11 happen in '98 back then, and we didn't know about it until that tragic event happened on that day. But love that album cover and the production and you had What's It Gonna Be with Janet Jackson. Love that video. One of the best videos ever. By Hype Williams and the title track, Tear the Roof Off, a banger. Swiss Beats did that joint. Where we about to take it. One of my favorite album cuts on this joint. Take It Off, another a single. Go Give Me Some More. That was the first single with that Psycho theme from the movie. That was great. Just This Means War with Black Sabbath. I love that track. I wish he had did a video with them for that. Just a great album. One of his best. I love his first four. So I can't go wrong. Like The Come In to me is a classic. When Disaster Strikes, this one for sure has become like his signature solo album. Anarchy was dope. This definitely found my classic, man. This is the Buster that, and it gave us a dope sequel too. And I think like the mood of the sequel fit with this album. So it was like he never left. He left like 11 years, and he came back and gave us a solid sequel to this album. So definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorites as well too. Um, Next album I got is Pete Rock with Soul Survivor.
All right.
It's very underrated in my opinion. This is my number 8. This came
Yes.
out 4 years after he did shit with CL Smooth and stuff like that.
Right.
You have songs like True Master with Inspector Deck and Corrupt, Half Man, Half Amazing with Meth. Like he had like a dope mix with East Coast, West Coast, South on this album. You know what I'm saying? You actually got loose ends. With this Take Your Time joint and shit like that too. So very, very, very dope album. In my opinion, his best solo album. In my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Number 8, I got Doc's the Name 2000, Redman. Underrated album. I still think it's one of his best albums. And the production from Eric Sermon on here was great. The skits was dope. It was hilarious on a lot of these skits. The songs Keep on 99, I'll Be That, The Goodness with Busta Rhymes, We'll All Right Yo. The da 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 da, that track that was dope. The Down South Funk with Eric Sermon, Keith Murray, that was banging. Just a phenomenal album. Like every track was banging. The skits was hilarious, and again, this is another album that people don't mention. It's There's a Dark Side, it's Muddy Waters, and that's about it. They totally skip over this album. I don't know why, but I think this is definitely a classic and one of Redman's best.
Definitely. My number 7 is Jay Z's Volume 2 Hard Knock Life. A very dope album and stuff like that. When I first heard it album, I didn't really care for it too much. I
Right.
definitely felt I had a bit too much guest appearances, but then over the years it grew on me a bit more.
Facts.
He has songs like Money Cash Hoes, the title track alone, fucking Reservoir Dogs and stuff like that. And this is actually his breakthrough album and his most successful album to date and stuff like that too. You know what I'm saying? Because Reasonable Doubt and Volume One, I mean, those were good, but it didn't really break him worldwide like that. Besides this
Right.
album,
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be high on my list. Definitely love that album. My number, where we at? Number
7.
7 is going to be Gangstar Moment of Truth. And I don't have the album, but I got the greatest hits, and a lot of the songs from Moment of Truth is on this album. Like My Steez, and they had like the remix with what's her name, Lady of Rage, and Corrupt is on that. The Work joint is also on the greatest hits. Royalty with Casey and JoJo, that was banging. Above the Clouds, one of my favorites with Inspector Deck. And I know Primo, he did a one of those So What's Up episodes talking about how that track came together with Deck and Guru, and that was fire. The Militia, banging track with Big Shug and Freddie Fox, aka Bumpy Knuckles. Betrayal, also on this Greatest Hits album with Scarface. Phenomenal. I wish they had did a video for that. Guru and Scarface killed that track. Definitely a Five Mile classic. One of the best gangster albums. Rest in peace, Guru.
Yeah, that's gonna be farther up my list and shit.
Yeah.
My number 6, Juvenile's 400 Degrees album. Um, Again, just like Jay Z Volume 2, this was pretty much his breakthrough album to the mainstream as well too. Very, very, very dope album. Very, very dope album and shit like that. You have songs
Yep.
like Gonna Ride with Me. You had Run for It. You had Hot, that and the remix and shit like that. Of course, everyone knows Back That Ass Up.
Right.
This was definitely a very, very, very dope album, in my personal opinion and shit. Like this album was so good, it won him the Billboard Music Award for Best R&B Album of the Year and shit. So
Right.
that's saying something.
Number six, I got DMX. It's Dark and Hell is Hot. Classic debut album in rap. And I bought this album strictly off of the hype and the word of mouth. Because we didn't have the internet back then. There was no social media. I told the story before. I remember the day that I had went to the record store to get John Forte's album, which also came out in '98, the Poli Sci album, and I didn't buy that one. I ended up buying the DMX one because a lot of my friends were like, they had the bootleg copy for the album and they were playing the joints, and I was saying like, stop being greedy. With I love the tone of that song where he flipped it from like, a softer tone to like a more, rugged, rugged tone, and that was a great track. And Get At Me Dog, the first single, that was great. Niggas done started something with Mace and the Locks. You know what I'm saying? How's it going down? So I bought that album just off of like what I was hearing, and it didn't disappoint. It was a phenomenal album. His flow, his energy on stage was great, and this man was a gem to hip hop and to music. And we lost another legend, but definitely one of the best rap debuts ever in history to me. So rest in peace, DMX.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about that. All right, and my numbers. We're at the top five now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start the top five of Outkast and Criminal. Very, very, very dope album.
Oh shit, that's mine too. What's
Cool.
going on here, yo?
I mean, this was so close to being my number one, actually.
Right.
Because honestly, the
Okay.
top five could easily been part of my number one, to be real with you. But
Right.
that's how good 1998 was. Because everyone wants to say 98 was a bad year for
Mm-hmm.
hip hop, which I highly disagree about that.
Right.
This album actually got five mics in the source and shit. This is like their most spiritual album to date at this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, songs like Mamacita, the title track was dope. Spotty Dopalicious. I mean, Liberation with CeeLo and Erica Badu. I mean, this whole fucking album is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Definitely. Um, That's my number five. And Rosa Parks. That was like, that caused controversy with the chorus and everything. But the song is phenomenal. Spotty Yachty, Dopalicious, a great instrumental. I love that song. I remember hearing that song. I went to Beach Street. We had a record store called Beach Street back in the day, and they were playing that song. The DJ was playing that song in there, and I was like, "Who the hell is it?" Because I don't even think the album had just came out, and I was like, "Who the hell is this?" And the DJ had told us that it was from the new Outkast album, and I did not buy this album when I was there. I ended up buying the Harlem World album, the Mace, not Mace Harlem World, the group Harlem World, that album
Oh yeah.
with Stacey Betha and Blinky Blink, Loon, all them cats. I ended up buying Harlem World over this album, and I regret doing that. But eventually I got a Criminal, and that made up for it. But this is definitely a Five Mic classic. A lot of people, love this album over AT Aliens and Southern Playlistic, but I love all the albums except for Idlewild. I think all the albums were great, but definitely a Five Mic classic, and we need a new Outkast album, or at least a verses.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get an Outkast album at this point.
Yeah.
All right, my number four is Most Def and Talib Kweli, Black Star. That's my number four. Very dope album in my opinion. Just, again, another refreshing album from '98. Part of the whole Ruckus movement. Definitely love songs like Respiration. I mean, love songs like Hater Players. They did their own version of Children's Story. Thieves in the Night, I love that one too. Like this album definitely had a very strong, like socially conscious view and stuff like that. Especially right after the murder of Pac and Biggie and stuff too. So yeah,
Yes. Number four for me is Jay Z Volume Two. This was the very first Jay Z album I ever bought. I bought this album the same day I bought the NORE album, and that was like one of the best record buying days ever for those two albums, both classics. And this album made Jay Z a household name. Like when Hard Knock Life came out, with that anthem came out, that's what made him a household name, and him using that Annie sample and Jigga What Jigga Who and Money Ain't a Thing with Jermaine Dupri. Can I Get It? Can I Get It was okay. I never really cared for that song. I still don't care for it like that. It's okay, but it's all right with Bleak and you know what's the other joint? A week ago with Too Short. That's my joint too. And it's a phenomenal album. I love it. He had many features on here. Foxy Brown is on here, and Bleak, like I mentioned. Reservoir Dogs, a great posse cut. I wish he had a video for that. Beans is on that. The Locks, Source Money, phenomenal. Five Mic classic. Definitely, to me, it's the best one in the trilogy. I love Volume One. Volume One is like right after this for me. But this is definitely like top three Jay Z albums for me. So
yeah, I can't get mad at I can't get mad at you about that shit, bro. Mm. Number three is Gangstar's Moment of Truth. This came out 4 years after Hard to Earn. Very, very, very dope album in my personal opinion. They definitely was fully realizing fully realizing themselves and stuff like that. Definitely got more mature with some of the lyrics. The love songs like My Steez, Betrayal was pretty good. I love that one. Militia was dope as well too. Like this whole fucking album, they just went. It's like they went back to the basics with this album and stuff too. So that's my number three. Gangstar's Moment of Truth.
number three for me is Black Star, Talib Kweli and Mos Def. A phenomenal album, and they took a long ass time to drop anything new. But this album, I think, solidified their status in hip hop, and it was great, man. Like redefinition and definition. Brown Skin Lady. That's like my favorite joint. You know, Respiration. It's definitely a great album. I love the boom bap production, and they have great chemistry together as a group. And Yasin Bey is going on to do phenomenal things, and Talib, and this is definitely a must have for any hip hop head, any collector, and it's a great album, definitely.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you about that. My number two is Big Punisher with Capital Punishment. Very, very, very dope album. The first solo Latino rapper to go platinum. You know what I'm saying? Definitely left us way too soon, in my personal
Yeah.
opinion.
Hmm.
I love songs like Punish Me. I love Boomerang. You Came Up. Parental Discretion was dope as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Twins. I mean, this whole fucking album is like 24 tracks, and there's not a weak track on this
Nice.
record and stuff like that. So, Big Pun, Capital Punishment is a fucking must have in your collection.
Number two, there's over the years there's been so much debate. Is this album an R&B album? Is this album a hip hop album? I think it's both, and I think this artist did a well balanced job of fusing both genres together. Lauren Hill, Miseducation Lauren Hill, love this album. Her only album, and after the success of the score, and she dropped this, and it solidified her place in Mount Rushmore, and it's a great album. And then she's doing both singing and rapping. There's joints where she's just singing, there's joints where she's just rapping, but I think she did a well balanced job of fusing both, and just like Andre did with Love Below, I think she was great in the production. And to think that they wanted the label wanted RZA to do joints on here, and he wasn't a part of it, or he couldn't make it. And Lauren produced everything on her own, and I think she gave us a 5 mic classic. And you know, you got joints like When It Hurt So Bad and That Thing, Doo Wop, and Final Hour, one of my favorite tracks on this album, to Zion, dedicating that to her firstborn. And Everything's Everything, like X Factor. The hits just kept coming with this album, and this is why she is a legend, and why people hold this album in such high regard. And it's this definitely a rap and R&B album. It's a fusion album, and I loved it. And this definitely gonna be on my R&B list. When we do the R&B list, this is gonna be on there. Spoiler alert.
Gotcha. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. My number one is DMX's Dark and Hell is Hot. I mean, this was
Nice.
the album that changed everything, redefined what like the East Coast was doing at that time too. Started a whole Rough Riders movement. I mean, songs like Crime Story, Damien, how it's going down. I mean, you see a glimpse of like what the storyteller in him can do and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I definitely give this a 5 mics, and it's probably my favorite hip hop album of '98. DMX's
Nice.
Dark and Hell is Hot.
Number one, there is no doubt this man made history with his first album, and he is definitely top five, top 10 all time. Big Pun, rest in peace. Capital Punishment, a 5 mic classic. And to think that when they were doing this album and he heard what Puffy was doing with No Way Out, that they wanted to even compete with that album. And I think this is a way better album than No Way Out. But that's just me. No Way Out is classic, but it's only classic because of who's on it, not because of Puff. But this album here beats that by a mile when it comes to true lyricism and the features and the production, and he did a great job of picking the right singles for radio, like Still Not a Player featuring Joe, and having Caribbean Connection with Wyclef, and Super Lyrical with Black Thought. He knew what he was doing, and they promoted the shit out of this album, Steve Rifkin and Loud Records, and they gave us a gem with this. And it's a shame that he's no longer here, but he is the first Latino rapper ever to be multi-platinum with this, and then to carry it over into the first Terror Squad album. That was great times. It was I know it was great times for Puerto Ricans to rep this man and that whole crew. And this is a 5 mic classic, the best album to me for '98. And rest in peace, man.
Yeah, rest in peace indeed. You got a few honorable mentions you want to list?
Honorable mention, I got Capadonna, The Pillage. Nobody talks about this album. We got to do a review for this album. Nobody talks about this album, and to me, this is Capadonna's best album even now. Like, he has a whole bunch of other albums, but this is his gem. And you had joints like Slang Editorial and Run, and Milk the Cow with Method Man, Pump Your Fist. Then later on, I think like on the later copies, they added 97 Mentality or whatever. Um, great album, production from RZA and the Wu Elements, and phenomenal album. I also got Cool G Rap, Roots of Evil. We discussed that album.
Ooh, I forgot about that
That
one.
is my favorite, one of my favorite Cool. I love 456, but the storytelling he took up a notch with Roots of Evil, and production was great. That is a true mafioso album, a great storytelling album. If nobody hasn't heard it, you're definitely missing out. Love that. MOP, First Family for Life. Love the production on there. The Primo gems were just knocking, and MOP was in a bag on that album. You know, Hyro, Third Eye Vision, a slept on album. I love Hyro Crew. I always loved their stuff, and they had joints like Oakland Blackouts and You'll Never Know. Phenomenal Hyro Crew album, and RZA, Bobby Digital. To me, his best album still. You had joints like Domestic Violence and Holocaust, and NYC Everything. That, and I wish we had gotten the movie for that album, but that is to me still his best album. Killer Priest, like you mentioned, that's definitely Heavy Mental. We did an album review on my channel a couple years ago. Check it out. Phenomenal Killer Priest album. And Def Squad. What would it be if I don't represent El Nino? I was thinking about this list. I almost put El Nino in the top 20, and then I forgot about Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. I think Lord Tariq album is better. And El Nino had some joints, Full Cooperation and Final Countdown, Checking Me Out. I like the album. I know you don't care for Def Squad, but I think El Nino was dope, and yeah, I had to mention that one. So those are my honorable mentions.
Dope honorable mentions. I have about maybe three honorable mentions.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna name them right off the bat because I do gotta get some studying done. Um, my first honorable mention, like you said, is Beastie Boys' "Hello Nasty," an album so close to be on my list. Definitely a more experimental album than like the previous couple ones, like "Check Your Head" and "Ill Communication." Must have in your collection. Second honorable mention is Cool G Rap "Roots of Evil." Mafioso rap classic right there. Probably my favorite solo album he's ever done. I love 456, but that album just slaps on another level,
Yeah.
in my personal opinion. And I definitely feel like it definitely means it's just due that shit too. I don't hear like a lot of people talk about that one. And the last album, I'm gonna go with Razzcast with Assassination.
That's a dope one too.
Yeah, very underrated joint as well too. Not as good as Still on Ice, but still
Yeah.
definitely that does is just due in my personal opinion. So yeah, I
Yeah.
fuck with this record.
Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, man. And that's gonna conclude our 1998 list of top hip hop albums. Appreciate this, bro, as
No
usual.
doubt. You have any other years in mind, or this is it?
Oh no, I have other years in mind. I
Yeah,
was
other
thinking about
years.
going to R&B route,
Okay.
like maybe like a top R&B albums of '89 or some shit.
Mm, 89. Damn, what came out then? I gotta check.
Rhythm Nation,
Okay.
um,
That's definitely gonna be my top three then. Rhythm Nation, for sure.
Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, Silky Soul,
Okay.
Babyface, Tender Lover. Yeah,
Mm,
a lot of shit came out in '89. You just gotta look deep and hard and shit like that.
yeah.
And we can do New Jack Sing, funk, contemporary, anything with somebody just singing and shit. We can do that shit. I'll let you know when we get ready to do that one. Okay.
Cool.
All right, family. Well, I'm about to get some studying done. I'm going to drop this probably tomorrow at some point. Happy
All right.
Juneteenth, everybody.
Happy Juneteenth.
Yes. Peace out.
Peace.
Mm.